ko pukuhui a pukehoanga mauna.
Microphone on, like the tribunal hearings, press the button and up.
Did it go?
Ai.
Bring it towards you.
So ka hawai te awa. Umanai te marae, te piti umanai te marae. So ka hawai rere ki umanaia, rere tōtika ki te wahapū Hokianga ngā awa. Ko popera hau. No Hokianga. Ahau. And today, I'm here to say that I object to this application. Can you hear me? Close to me. I can talk louder. Yeah.
It's just the background sound too.
I don't like these things. Yeah, and that we're here again today, is, yeah, it just stirs all kinds of emotions within me. I don't understand why in 2023 we're here doing this. I want to, today, I'd like to focus on the applicant and their current consent. You know, what is their current consent? There is none. So at the moment, they are illegally running a system with no consent. We looked at compliancy. I'm a dairy farmer, and we accidentally had a cow knock one of our pipes off and we were right at the top of our farm. Quite away from the river, we immediately got served an abatement notice for that, and given a very short time, and this happened in the winter time, where it was difficult to see that there was any breakage or any leakage anywhere. Yeah, so we were served an abatement, and what is that? That's just a straight out fine straight away. No discussion or anything like just a fine. And when I look at the fact that the applicant is not currently compliant, it doesn't give much trust and anything like that for the applicant, with regard to the applicant. 30 years ago, the applicant applied for consent to do what they're trying to do again today, 30 years ago. For the same system, our people voiced their disapproval and opposition to the discharge and to our Hokianga. Then they got the tick and were able to do it. And, you know, I would have thought that they would have thought, yeah, we've got approval. Let's work on how to improve this. And I thought, we have so much technology today. I went on Google and Googled wastewater systems, and up popped all these systems. Today, we're here in opposition to the applicant filing another application to continue discharging wastewater into our harbour, claiming that it's treated. I roto te ao Māori, in te ao Māori, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. Where is their psyche? What is their psyche? 30 years. And is there anything in the applicant's psyche that promotes a desire to seek improved systems? Is there? Not one's done with mitigations and all that stuff, which is what's been happening. There are so many options out there, and yet today we sit here fighting once again for a healthy harbour. We see the demise of our harbour, we see the unhealthiness in our harbour, and here we are again today in 2023 with so much technology around us, fighting the same battle. What scares me is that in 30 years' time my mokopuna are going to be sitting here doing this. I look at the processes that this applicant has to go through to do all this thing, and I look at the cost of it, and I had to ask myself, what was that cost to run all these things, to get our commissioners up to run for this week these hearings and what have you? What was the cost? And I wonder, might that have been better utilised in new systems that prevent the discharge of wastewater into our Hokianga harbour? I think also the applicant's dogged approach and continuance with this type of treatment plant and discharge into the water despite long-term opposition on cultural and environmental and ethical grounds is a reflection to me of the applicant's reluctance to give effect to Te Treaty o Waitangi and the Local Government Act, and it further denigrates an already strained relationship with the people of Hokianga. As a trustee at Te Piti o Manaia Marae, we are very concerned with the lack of development in all of the Hokianga sewage schemes. We're very concerned. As a dairy farmer and owner, we are swamped with new developments that require ever-changing compliance levels. The risk of non-compliance could end our dairy operation and close it down with the risk of hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines as well. How does the applicant manage to have an expired thing today and it's okay? The sewage schemes in this application seem to be protected from compliance regulation and regularly fail the compliance guidelines and yet continue to operate. Call it a dairy farm and let's see what would happen. Call it a dairy farm. I wondered about the Paihia scheme and I wondered how do they comply there. They would never allow what's happening to us here, over there. They have a big pipeline that pumps it right over to land, right through from Paihia. The Hokianga scheme seemed to be overlooked with no progress in at least 40 years, and it's more than that. An embarrassing lack of action that is displayed in many areas of our community. To the applicant, we welcomed you onto our marae. We placed a seat for you alongside us at our table. We fed you and openly and honestly shared our concerns. You assured us that you were here to support us. That was the courtesy we afforded you on many occasions. And today in return, you place your seat opposite us and you submit your application in direct opposition to us, seeking to further violate the tapu of our Hokianga awa. Let me tell you, there's no relationship. And there's absolutely no trust. I would like to see genuine steps made to cease the disposal of sewage into the harbour and the recognition of the modern technology on ground-based disposal considered. Kia ora tātou.
You're on. If it's all right, I'd like to stand. I walk around the paddock all day on the farm and sitting down doesn't suit me. All these king tōpui, ko tare wikara whakatupuna no whirinaki. I also whakapapatu rangi point, which means the places I whakapapatu get the incoming tide, get all the open home stuff and get the kuku and Rawene and drifting down that way. So The hapus I represent are right in the middle. And I was just looking back through the history. And we're the people who live here, swim here, fish here, boat here. I looked around the room and there's no one. I'm 71 years old. And there's only one person I can see who's been on the harbour longer than me, and that's Nicky Williams. So we have quite a long history in relationship with the harbour. Our children have swum here and engaged in the water. And I looked also at the history, so I made a few notes, I'll leave them here for you. Back in the 1980s, 40 years ago, I was here when they put the oxidation ponds in the sewage systems in Koko, Opanoni and Rawene. I saw this development. And I have to say that in the era of 1980s, it was a great step. There wasn't a person in the Hokianga who didn't think that something needed to be done. And we backed it all away. And it got its consent. Then we saw time move on, and then we saw all these things start to happen. We had numerous policies and acts that the council had to follow, obligations to follow them. I'll just name a few. You had central government plans. You had resource management acts. You had coastal policy act. You had the freshwater act. You had, these are all plans and acts that you're bound to follow. You had the clean water policies, regional plans, regional long-term plans, regional catchment plans, district 10-year plans, and district long-term plans. These are all the things that are available for a council to be able to check its progress. And then I thought about all the things that are going above. All the above is in place so that people can expect development of the assets to trend forward. And that's really the point I'm making. They expect the development. All these acts are there to guide you. We are governed in all our workplaces by government regulation, as you are. There's even an act that demands depreciation of the asset. So if it's been going for 40 years, there must be a big stack of money, because depreciation says you should put money aside so that you can advance these schemes and progress them. So I'm picking there's a lot of money in there somewhere. Either that or you're breaking the act because it demands depreciation. Now, I just wanted to give a few examples of history. And there's farming, and there's rubbish, refuse, and there's sewage. Those are quite key things. Well, if you want to go into the farming world, 40 years ago, well, I was down the South Island about 30 years ago, and I noticed all the cowsheds and piggeries were built on the edge of the Buller River so that they could sweep the excrement straight into the river. That's how it was done 50 years ago. No one accepts that today. Nowhere. We've progressed past that. So I'm saying farming has made a lot of progress. It was the same up the north here. Piggeries and cowsheds right by the water so you could get rid of the excrement. So you can see that all the regulations and compliant action that's coming for farming, it's tidied it back up. You don't see any of that. Even a negligent farmer understands that that's not a possibility anymore. So we've seen good progress in the farming sector. When it comes to refuse, we've seen another major progress. And 75 years ago, this authority here, Hokianga County, used to dump its rubbish on the Rawene mudflat over here. We all know we're part of the sea. Prior to that, they used to dump it just out of the Rawene turn-off on that mudflat. That was just thrown there. If you wanted to go to Pai here, and it's recorded in my notes, they dumped theirs on the mudflat around the back road to Pai here. We don't accept that anymore. We've made progress past that. We've constrained the rubbish bits. We centralise things. We have compliance issues that expect the council to get rid of their refuse in a responsible way. We have major recycling plans. So you can see progress has been made in those two areas. Now come to the last one, sewage. 40 years ago they put these things in there. Apart from forced upgrades, apart from forced compliance issues, not one thing has changed. They're just the same. So the lack of progress is part that disturbs me when I look at this whole program. 40 years, no progress. All the others you can see they've made excessive progress. These have stood still while other areas have moved ahead. Despite all the regional acts and parliamentary thing, it still hasn't gone ahead. In fact, they deteriorated. The end of the open-only pipe fell off, so they put a rubber one on. They dug drains and they put new flax in and they put aerators in the pond and they grew bamboo along the road so you couldn't see it and trying to stifle the smell. All these cunning little projects. Nobody sat down and said, how can we improve this and what can we do to make it? And I expect that these are pretty simple things, I think, in my opinion, in here. Of note, you can note the Auckland City Council must have a major task. Perhaps you could have peeked in their books, you know, and had a bit of a look, because they deal with a lot of sewage, and they have got some major projects going on there. And you can't say that they haven't progressed. Unfortunately, I have to say that here, we haven't progressed much. So the technology available is vast, and the community acceptable suggestions have been broadly ignored. And that's a disappointment to me. The inability to adopt land-based or new technologies rejected in favour of continued change, Band-Aid approach. So the Band-Aid approach is still the key driver here. My recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is that the application be rejected and that Council be instructed to genuinely engage with local people who have demonstrated modern, affordable, land-based technology available for use. The solutions are available in the communities that live in the environment instead of a desktop study by people who don't touch the water. Thank you, ma'am.
Take the button off on that one and use that microphone, that's it.
Motu a koto e tikara me mihi a hau ki e nea kaku. Hai, tēnā koutou katoa. Mihi ana kia koutou katoa ki whanama. Tai anō hau ka tai mai tēnei rangi. Kare au I konei I te wā te kōwhiri no reira e mihi ana karangi mai karama. Karangi mai ki tēnei no panguru. Ko tērā taha, he uri tēnei no kai tūtai. Ko hau kumina pomare kaita, ko hau te tūua ki te puratau no panguru. E mihi kawana kia koutou. Ai, tēnā tātou katoa. Oh, me pēhe te kōrero. Oh, I have to translate what? Is that toki makaroria? Nā wano e makaroria e whakahake kia I taku kōrero. Hei no, mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Koutou e te kaunihira, me tō koutou nei tono, kare mātou I te whakaro. Long and short of it.
Kia ora mātou.
Ai, hara. Okay.
So she's just acknowledging everyone that's here today and addressing the council that stating that they don't agree and they object to the submission or to the application.
I'll stay in English now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so basically my name's Mina Pomare Peita. I'm the principal to Kura Taumata Pangaru. I'm a uri of a hapu called Kai Tūtai. Ask yourself why. I'm also a uri of other wonderful hapu, Waiariki, Ngāti Manoa, me ngā hapu katoa o tērā taho o te Hokianga, me tēnei taha hoki, ko taku ingoa, o Pomare, no reira, he uri tēnei no tērā o ngā rangatira. Oh, sorry. I'll talk about two main things today, basically around, we're in the world of the word reduce, reclaim, reuse, all of that. So I think that in that whole world, we've grown up. From the last time you guys did the application, surely we've grown up. We're adults now, so we can make better decisions. Hey, like surely. So what Uncle Les has talked about the land base, is what I want to talk about effective effluent reuse, basically. And then the second point is about how the Hokianga is a shapeshifter. That's what I grew up with. I've done my research on my tupuna, himi on a kamira, my tupuna and an elder and a past lecturer of mine, Patu Hoepa, as well as the locals and my own whānau as well. Born and bred in Pangaru. Pangaru is where I come from, that's what I know. Hokianga is where I grew up, and all of that, you know. So, and crossing over here, across the Hokianga, I bump into so many locals that have been working in waste and water care in places like that know some of the solutions. So I support what Uncle Les has said around, you know, just work with us. Because that story about working with hapu, whānau and iwi, oh my gosh, show me what does that look like in your space. Because in my space, I don't see it as often. We don't see it and on our terms. Okay, so in terms of my research around effluent reuse, yeah, I did my mahi, I did my homework on that, and it wasn't just all from Google. I went to an environmental consultant to get some of this information. And but some of the stuff was also common sense that I've grown up with my own parents and grandparents, etc., and my whole community. And yes, I'm a Kaukoki's daughter as well. So yes, I know how we used to squeeze me down the drain. Who cares as long as the shed was clean, you know? And then you went to a dance at the memorial. Two major nutrient contaminants in the sewage effluent is phosphorus and nitrogen. We know that. And we can use that. We can use those nutrients in other ways. Okay, we can use it, nitrogen can be extracted from that sewage sludge rather than relying on the fossil fuels. And with this war with Russia, and that, you know, we're pretty low on that there, so we can get it out of the sewage tax, guys. Hey, you know, I mean, that's getting urea from Russia is just a no-go zone. The economics of recovering these nutrients from sewage effluent is often dependent on the scale that you need huge volumes of sewage to support extraction systems. We know that there's huge things going into our Hokianga hapa. Even Kaikohe is bringing theirs over here. And there are lots of ways that those nutrients can be recovered. If you look at the Mangawhai sewage effluent on the golf course and look at what they're doing there. We know that a sewage treatment plant separates solids from water, and the two fractions are dealt with separately. We know that because we've been doing our research over all these years, because we want to go against the sewage being poured into the Hokianga. We'll hear lots and lots of arguments over the dilution rates and the assimilation rates, the ability of receiving water to safely assimilate the waste being discharged. But, like Auntie Paiao said, there's technology these days. There's technology. Not only have we grown up, but technology has become a go-to for us in solving global problems. So I think, as Uncle Les said, I think it's now become accepted amongst all people of Aotearoa that this way of getting rid of sewage is becoming an outdated concept. And so getting rid of the sewage in effluent reuse or on land base is a solution. Has the council, has the applicant done enough research in that particular area? We have exotic and native forests, trickle lines, drip lines, all of that sort of stuff that needs to be investigated. You know, as I just said, and the discharge to the land must be at a rate that the soil and the plants growing on the soil can assimilate. But like I said before, and as been alluded to, spoken to by the two kaikororo before me, and speakers before me, that we have technology that's available to manage this. Sewage sludge as well, like, you know, we can use that to produce high quality compost. That sort of stuff. And I'm sure the people before me, well, I'm hoping the people before me all said this stuff, so I've just come along to total with that. So, another one that you may need to look at, which will help us in the Warawara, when you look over to the beautiful misty blue mountain of Pangaru, it belongs to a whole range of maunga called the Warawara. In there, when we got our beetle settlement back, we got given back sick. It's full of possums. However, those possums and shall I tell you this? Or you make money out of it. But you know, the kidneys and the liver and that of the roadkill can be thrown into the septic tanks and then the solids. I mean, you might think that this is old wives' tale, but it's true. We have people that know that do that say, you know, we don't need to be emptying it out. There's the soil, there's these enzymes that are natural that can also come from these possums and all of that stuff that can be put into these areas that will eat away at those solids and waste and will separate the water. But again, do your research and just study that a little bit more. But locals are telling us that. Local men, Māori men always get the best jobs. If they're not being consultants, they're actually doing all the dirty stuff, like these guys who work for water care, who work for Interclean, who work for all those places that clean up these septic tanks. So their words, liver and the kidney of possums are put into the tanks to absorb the solids. Whaimana, tell them that. So, just a kōrero about the council, the applicant needs to do some research around effective effluent reuse. We don't like ponds. Okay, just saying that now. Plants and ponds are hunga. Oh, that means things. We don't like ponds. We want better ways of discharging sewage, and we have some. So if you want to work with hapu, whānau and iwi, that's families, sub-tribes and tribes, then come and see us, come and talk to us. Come and see us in our times. We don't have to have we don't need to lay down the red carpet. You just come and talk to us and we'll be part of that with you in creating the solution. And of course, the sewage, and on the soil. There's always going to be a problem about absorbing things into the soil and onto the soil. But again, managing that effluent irrigation, like has been spoken of to the speakers before me, that can be managed. The second part of my kōrero, is she the timekeeper? Second part of my kōrero is around the Hokianga being a shapeshifter. So, as I said before, grew up in Pangaru, grew up in Hokianga, and have watched it. And told stories, not kid stories, not, you know, like scary stories to make you not sleep at night time, but real stories about, you see that log over there? Hey, he tani whātera. That's a monster, or that's a, I don't know how to translate the word taniwha. He taniwha, okay? And basically, I grew up with all of the stories and seen it. So, Hemiona Kamera talks about it. They talk about Ngaru Nui, Ngaru Roa, Ngaru Pai Whenua. They talk about those not just that, you know, they're not waves. They personify those as important guardians, protectors, important. And so, you know, as the principal, I teach these children, students that have come here to support me. It's important that I teach them that in our local curriculum, that they don't grow up thinking that the Hokianga is just a place where we dump sewage, but it's a place that needs to be respected because that's our kaitiaki. When we talk about Arai Te Uru and Niwa, they're not just names that they are actually guardians of our, of our area, all of the places. And so what am I leaving for these students, for the tomorrow, what we call their pōpō? What do we leave for them if we're just going to say, oh, you're stuffed, we've got a paru awa over there, and you fellas must get on a plane and get to Aussie. Like really, we're grown up with watching the Hokianga, learning about these, all the way back from the arrival of Ngā Toki Mata Whauru. All the way back from there, or Kupe. It came in on Ngaru Nui, Ngaru Roa, Ngaru Kai Whenua. We talk about that, we still sing about that hundreds of years later. And and we talk about taniwha as being our kaitiaki. And so the Hokianga is a shapeshifter for us. It's not just it can be, it protects, and taniwha can also cause death. Taniwha, actions can also cause death. So we grow up with that sort of stuff, people. The applicant, we grow up with that. How can we, and if we keep on putting paru into and allowing that to happen without considering what the hapu or what we're saying, that's so wrong. That's so wrong that this is what we're leaving for the tomorrow. And so our elders, they adamantly believed that, and we learned not from books, but from kōrero tuki iho, stories that have been passed down, stories that have been passed down for a reason, so that we tell those stories again, so that we do, and we were also taught that you have to be better than the generation that brought you into this world, and so that the next generation will do more. But I can't, in the senior part of my career, I can't walk out of this without doing something, or at least going to gate rejecting the applicant's application. The Hokianga, we've been brought up, more importantly, is to be respected. It is our pātaka kai. We don't go and do stuff because silly things, horses. We've grown up with that. And so I just wanted to, I just wanted to share that kōrero with you about how important the Hokianga is, regardless of all of the sewage and discharge and all of that. E homa. Koutou. Whakarongo mai. The Hokianga is a shapeshifter. And we will go, but the land, moana, will still remain. Are we going to leave it like that? We've grown up since the last applicant. We've learnt more, as Uncle Les and Auntie Pai Au have said. We've learnt more. We've got a lot more solutions at our fingertips. So let's use those solutions instead of not listening to our people. Because if you don't listen to us, we also can turn into taniwha too. Kia ora.
He
Kia ora tātou, kia ora ngā tamariki o te kura taumata o Pangaru, and all the grown ones too, sorry mate. Thank you. I just want to say that last night I had a lot of messages from people that were speaking today and tomorrow. And they said things like, I'm terrified. And another message, I feel like I'm riding into a war. How do you do this? How do people do this? I want to acknowledge the incredible courage that it takes for the people who are used to being at home here and suddenly find themselves feeling like they're not at home here. And we hear the beginnings of those kōrero and start to connect to that whakapapa of that kōrero here in Hokianga. When you hear our whanaunga saying, I am tangata whenua here. I will do what I need to do. And all of these different kinds of mamae contribute to the way that we speak into these spaces. And I took a great sense of encouragement from, I've got an Uncle Joe, and he did a great interview. And he was interviewed on Te Ao of Moana, and he said, in amongst lots of other glorious way cooler things, he sort of said this little thing that was like, a space that is not occupied is a space, and we knew about it, as a space that we have ceded. And I took courage from that. And I thought, always, we must call, we must speak. And so today, kia ora tātou, ko Dallas King tōku ingoahuri tēnei no Hokianga. Ki te tau o tōku mama no Hokianga, ki te tau o tōku nei pāpā no Hokianga anau. You can take from that exactly how it sounds. Isn't it awesome? Te ao Māori. I kept asking myself, and at the beginning of this when I was writing this submission, and tomorrow I'll speak, but from a community perspective on behalf of Te Mauri o Te Wai, but today's submission and today's kōrero is specifically from the viewpoint of hapu kai kōrero, speaking on behalf of hapu. I'm not the only hapu kai kōrero, there are many others, but it's an opportunity to shed perspective, I think, particularly in the face of that question, is there really anything we can say? I ask myself this again and again. Is there really anything we can say? Is there anything we could show? And is there anything we could prove to stop this consent? I grappled with that. I realised that there really isn't. When you're in the face of municipal sewage systems ×2 that are applying for a continuation of consent, you have this profound moment of recognition that they're applying for consent, and the reality is, Dallas, no matter how much it says they can approve or decline, it's going to get approved. There's a level of arrogance and assumption at play here too from the applicant, and I realise, Commissioners, that I'm not allowed to address them directly, but if I could, I would ask some questions. I would ask them questions about the nature and the timing of the fact that they submitted changes to their application despite the fact that there has been a very elongated time that has transpired between the consent being applied for and the hearings that we had to fight to have being held. It's extraordinary, don't you think, the amount of resource and expertise that they have at their fingertips, that changes are submitted to their application on the first day of that hearing. I think that that bears to mind a little bit of the disingenuous way in which we have had to work with the applicant in this way. Imagine our disappointment again when we see that of all the things that they could have changed, perhaps they're going to make a bigger commitment, perhaps they're going to make more improvements and changes, but of all the things that they changed, they struck out in highlighted red with a fat line through it, that one condition or series of statements that permitted them to work and have a relationship with us as Hapu. Of all the things to change, they changed that. They also changed the requirement around monitoring to meet a certain standard around E. coli. They went from, in the 90th percentile, they said we were going to commit to being below 5,500 in the 90th percentile. And they didn't make this tiny little, like, oh, we think that's a little tiny bit tight. They went from 5,500 to 24,000 in 100 mils. And I realised for other people that might be like counting peanuts. And on Monday, I heard again and again people talking about mixing zones and dilution. And I just wanted to share a story that talks about and, like actually what that means. So when you take something, let's use, I've got a friend here, Dr. Judith Reinken, and she made this a more accurate story, thanks Judith. But I want to use this point to illustrate. Imagine for a minute that you're a nutritionist and you are speaking to a room full of practicing Judaists about the nutritional value of pork and why they should eat it. The nutritionist could list a vast array of expert reports that talk about how pork meat, pig meat, is okay. It won't make you sick. They have missed the point that for practicing Judaists is actually connected to their belief systems around their eternal salvation. Imagine how ridiculous and time-consuming and wasteful it would be to persist with that argument if you really understood their religious faith and their belief systems. It is the same in this instance. Any measure of tūtai, teko, kaka, any kind of human waste, paru, into the water, actually is not okay. So, having said that time and time again, and it has never changed that perspective, imagine what it means when you hear people explaining that it's okay because it will be diluted. It's okay because the impact will be negligible. In addition, there was another legal submission that we received as submitters from the applicant on Monday. It attempted in a really clumsy moment to accentuate the use of the word generally, as though it was of real consequence to our moana, our pātakakai. I also wanted to touch quickly on the applicant's assertion that the concept of the mode of water bodies has been extensively considered by the court. My understanding of that case that was mentioned is that that is actually a not inappropriate interpretation of how that decision came about. I also want to say that the idea that the concept of the mode of water bodies has been extensively considered by the court is a matter of perception, I feel. For us, the mode of our way has been considered in excess of 1,000 years. A time frame which has been accurately and convincingly evidenced, which I'm happy to provide, through a technical review of our kōrero tuku report, which is in fact a way that we record the findings of our scientific observation over the years, which has been reviewed by renowned astronomers worldwide. We would not deem that even in excess of 1,000 years extensive. We would deem that to iwi Māori as ordinary. For us, it is not a contract or a project. It is a way of life. Our life is to live in and through that life to observe the environment that we are here, Hokianga in particular. You might have heard earlier evidence that touched on some of our foundational spiritual beliefs today and in the poke. As Te Iwi Māori, you may be forgiven in some settings for taking a stance that beliefs such as ours are not something that can be acted on, but every day here in this hearing, we have all of us demonstrated that we can in fact act on our beliefs, haven't we? We have every morning had karakia and sung himeni that acknowledged atua who were not in themselves in the physical, tangible, visual present in the room with us. All of us collectively acted on a belief system. We do it every day. I do not accept the applicant's vague stance around that. And I want to come back to this kōrero, that kōrero tukuiho, the statement that intergenerational knowledge that has been handed down and encapsulated in waiata, chants and songs and chants and pūrākau, to the exterior world, they're pretty things. They're examples and embodiments of our culture. To us, they are practical science teaching tools that each of them incorporate essential levers that begin ki te wānanga for us to pursue in our life of learning. If you understand them, you will understand that. What's disappointing and important to find out is that despite constant involvement with council, we have never been sought after for an understanding of that with relation to the water. We are not unavailable. Despite the fact that we are unpaid for that work, we continue to be available. In its first instance, tikanga at play here for myself as a hapu kai kōrero is to extend my taupoko and support to the hapu who have mana whenua over the space that the wastewater treatment plant in Kohukohu and the wastewater treatment plant in Māpere Opanoni, just up above where Waiarohia comes out. It's tikanga right for me to extend my support to them. Why am I doing this? Because 13 years ago, there was another hearing for ours here in Rawene. And those hapu came to ki te taupoko. And I want to give you a visual demonstration of something right now, if you'll permit me. Te mera kai hea koe, he tūsa. At the time of the last hearings, this tiny boy, who's now 12, soon to turn 13, was in my puku. When he was born and I was breastfeeding him, we were in the Court of Appeal mediation process, appealing the consent that was permitted. In this time frame, the attitude and the application to investigating options and the sincerity with which they have conducted that has not changed. Thank you, sir. Why is that important? I think it's important because reports are largely completed according to the terms of reference, right? So if you have reports being completed by experts that have a particular area of expertise and lived experience, then the scope of their application will be somewhat directed by the precedent of that industry that they work in. And that's an important part for me because not only do we have, as hapu kai kōrero, this knowing that the people they have contracted are actually the people who are experts in pond-based systems and response in mounds and activated sludge. So it's natural. If you go to a sports clothing shop, you're not going to find a ball dress, dear. We need a ball dress. We need a ball gown. Hokianga is the gem is the gem of the crown that we all wear in our whakapapa. Every time I stand up to introduce myself, I have to say, ko Dallas ken tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no Hokianga. In the back of my mind is this echo. It goes unsaid, but in the back of my mind, every time I say that, he uri tēnei no Hokianga, and today, my beloved, Hokianga will be the receiving environment for 1,900 cubic metres of treated, sometimes untreated, sometimes additionally polluted by algal bloom wastewater. Wastewater that goes there by design and is paid for and funded by our rates. Imagine that. A 190 10-tonne trucks full of treated, sometimes untreated, and I know what their reports say, but I want to explain something again. We live here. We paddle. When I train our waka crew, my daughters might be here. Are the daughters here? Wait, they're there. Some of you probably like, not all of them. For long distance nationals, the buoy that used to be there for the outlet pipe in Omapere, we would sometimes catch them using it to do turns on. And we were like, hang on a minute, check the pipe, what's the pipe, what's the pipe doing? Ooh, no, don't you? And you would see them. I just want to show you, it's like this. Hip, reach, and they get ridiculed, right, if they're not driving deep. So they're paddling, then they're coming up to the buoy and everybody knows what's there. And next minute, nobody wants to get wet. Nobody wants to get wet. When we see our whānau who live away from here come home, and they get out there at the outlet of Hokianga, and they're having a play, we stop and get us say, oh, whanaunga, come down here. Don't play there. Don't play there in a place that we collected kai. Don't play there in a place that we swim. Don't play there in a place that is associated with the arrival of Kupenuku on Matawhao, and Kupenuku, the first of many kupe who came here to Hokianga. Don't go there. Why? Because the hair is a problem. They talk about the adverse impacts on the receiving environment, and as a hapu kai kōrero, I want to tell you, I don't know why they say there's no one out there with scientific evidence that can demonstrate the adverse impacts on the mauri of wai. The mauri of wai is actually very easy to measure. The abundance and the health of it is determined by the presence and prevalence of kai. Those species of kai become informative indicators and tohu. It is not difficult to find this information. We have never been asked for it. We would be only too happy to provide it. In fact, we have lamented the fact that they have not only not asked, but they have shown disdain for it when we have expressed it as hapu kai kōrero, that this information is available. Tohunga who are world-renowned and world-sought after are from here in Hokianga, knowledgeable of maramataka, ngā tohu o te taiao, kōrero te kuipo, pāna ki te taiao o Hokianga. People who are sought after worldwide are here in Hokianga, but they are admonished by the applicant. 2 days ago, I got an email from my daughter. My daughter is one of several rangatahi that work alongside and at the feet of Rereata Mākeha. Rereata Mākeha is a renowned astronomer, and in a sort of a crass way of explaining it, like a Māori ecologist low-key, but like on another level. Te āua nei, kaha ki te tiro tiro. He is renowned for teaching us to observe. But that's not all, he's just one. My dad at the end here will wake up in the morning, and he probably doesn't know it, but we tiny have his tiny smile. He'll smell it here. He'll look outside. He knows how fast the grass is growing. He sees the changes in the water. The water that he knows outside Kohukohu wastewater treatment plant. It is not hard to find this information, and I want to make it clear it has been readily available but not sought after, and at times when offered, disdainfully treated. There is no shortage of experts. And I want to just say that in a funny old way, the reason my father was able to reference some of the major advances that have been made around technology, particularly in Auckland, is because in my side hustle, mate, that's what I do. Right? So I'm a contractor. I contract down there to Hokianga, and we participate actively on some fantastic projects that investigate innovative solutions. In the community liaison group that I've been actively a part of as a member of our hapu, there are so many qualifications in that room, it feels a little, like, look at this great resource. Other people would be paying through the nose for this. But here they have in the room doctorates, master's degrees, and then all the other people in there too that have come through Te Wharewana or Hokianga. This is all available. It's an extraordinary situation to find ourselves here, I've got to be clear. At the Pōhiri, you would have heard te whakapapa o te wai. And you may have heard this kōrero tuku iho, which talks about the beginning of all life. I noho a io, I te aho te ao, he wai katoa, he pauri. At the beginning, Io, the Supreme Being, was seated at the edge of the universe, a space that had no start and no finish. He wai katoa, he pauri. These to others might seem like spiritual isms, but to us they are not. I'll tell you what it does say. It galvanizes us, and it's why we're all here during this process, and there would have been a lot more, but the process itself is maligning me. But it galvanizes us because we are reminded when we hear that if there's one thing we cannot compromise on, it is why. Because it was the beginning of life as we know it. It is a part of our salvation. I want to touch on one final thing before I start to close, and that is that we have heard people talking to a certain degree and in lots of different ways around atua Māori, God, and I touched on it a little bit earlier around the charisms of kōrero tuku iho, but I want to also illuminate, I hope, and please give me sort of the cuddle signal if you're like, I already know this, but atua are in some ways can be described as personifications of environmental realms and phenomena. And don't kill me, fans, if I'm getting a little bit shallow or specific here, okay? But anyway, the point is that when you look at te whakapapa o te wai, you might think we're talking only about an ethereal being and beings. But actually, if you know, and you have come through te wharewana, then you'll know each of those names. You know, how does it go? Te whakapapa o te wai, wai nui a te a, you know, the wai that's up in universal space, which is, there's some amazing photos from NASA. Ka moia o ka puta ko moana nui. We all know where moana nui is. Moana roa, moana hakere, moana potamo, moana tui te po, moana tui. lakes of Wai. And each of those then have uri, right? Moana Tui Te Repo is our wetland atua. And she has a role that is easily defined and correlates kindly from an ecologist's point of view. Why am I saying this and going on at length? I'm saying this because we have heard on Monday about the Western and empirical science views. And we have seen the investment of resource into the ascertaining of the perspectives and the views of those experts into this application. But we have not seen any investment of resource into an investigation into ascertaining the views of Māori scientific views, which is entirely relevant and valid, I think. If, in fact, that had been done by the applicant, then I think we would be having a very different discussion, and in fact, there would have been several hundred submitters in support because the application would have been for something we all tautoko. Because what we have here is an inequitable view of the valuing and the capacity to value mātauranga and kōrero te iho from a te iwi Māori point of view, te ao Māori point of view. It is incorrect to say that expertise is not available. In fact, other iwi all around the world and Taketake access the expertise that is resident here in Hokianga constantly. The reports that come out of that access are not unspecific, they are not vague, they are quite clear, and they provide quantitative and qualitative scientific advice from a te ao Māori point of view, which talk about the adverse and potential beneficial impacts on the receiving environment. And the receiving environment and all of its hono, the connections between the connected life forms that are impacted. Over the next few days, you will hear more evidence from other submitters that talk about life forms that used to be there before and are no longer there now. They will talk to you about how that kai was taonga and in particular was only accessible in those places. We will also hear evidence about kurutai. Kurutai is where the freshwater and the saltwater mixes. And so we start to have this conversation about what was refuted on Monday as does not apply to the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management. Actually, that does apply. That's a different interpretation to that policy statement that I have, that's for sure. But luckily for me, the Regional Council and District Council both approach Wai as all being of importance. Okay? So you'll hear those things. And through those stories, I challenge you, I ask you to extrapolate out for yourself from their submissions of evidence the indicators that they themselves in their stories and their life and lived experiences demonstrate the adverse impacts that are quantifiable from these two wastewater schemes. And I want to remind you too that we're grateful for the questions that you ask and for the insight that you bring. And I want to finally remind you that you have an opportunity to effect change. Change that could mean that when my son has a child, he doesn't stand that child up as a demonstration. Tēnā tātou kankoa.
Thank you for that. I just want to congratulate you on a very articulate and very succinct and also for all the time and effort, even into organising this week. The new person and bringing this beautiful community together, and thank you to all those young people supporting you there. You're all beautiful. So kia ora. Thank you very much.
We're going to do this, but I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Before everybody starts moving, we'll just do a chat about tomorrow.
Oh my God. Just going to have a 40 more about tomorrow. Sorry. Oh my.
We're all pretty aware that you were the last one of the day.
Totally done.
Yeah, so you can leave the stuff tomorrow, that's fine. We had somebody who has moved tomorrow, so we're at 9 o'clock start in the morning. Ellie is sending an email out to all submitters to let them know that we're starting slightly later. So unless there's anything else, so somebody's going to prepare to go up and come here and see us up for the day. You do it, Dallas.
Okay, fine. Now I'm trying to turn my camera around. Gonna go outside now. Okay, fine. Well, that's us for day 3. I hope you enjoyed the hearings. I'm trying to turn my camera. Oh, there we go. Okay, fine. Well, that's it for day 3 of the hearings here at Rawene. Day 4, Popo, 9 o'clock start, so no mai haere mai. Hope you've enjoyed the streams. I apologise for any oh well, you know, bumps or movements in there. But yeah, been an awesome day here. Oh, there we go, I'm back again. My phone is starting to go flat, guys. Anyway, so I'll catch you all back here at 9 o'clock. Okay, come over, bring your sign. No mai haere mai. I'm Gladdy with Tautoko FM all the way here at the WWTP. Hearings here at Rawene. Māori tū whānau. If it goes off, where? Oh, my stupid phone. Hang on. I'll just turn it around there. Try and turn it off. My phone, no, you're right. It's been on that long, it won't go off. Come on. Ah. Oh well, I'm gonna have to take you for a bit of a hikoi with me until my phone turns off. Woo! Yeah. Let's go inside here. Here we go. This is where we are. I'll show you where.
Oh. It says 8:45.
Here we go. We're in the back scenes. Far now. I'm trying to turn my phone off.